Hello everybody and welcome to the Daily Splatt. Today on the 29th of February 2012, because it's a leap year. Because, once every 4 years we have to have an extra day because clocks aren't perfect. Now then, I'm not going to talk about leap year stuff because that's, well, I'll save it for another 4 years. What I thought I'd talk about instead is the political situation here in Australia. Don't turn off. I will, but in a slightly more humorous, amusing way. For those of you who are uninitiated, or from those of you who are streaming from under the rock, allow me to fill you in. In the last couple of weeks, and indeed more specifically last week, there was a big old leadership challenge here in Australia for the top job of Prime Minister. In one corner, the current Prime Minister, Miss Julia Gillard, who was appointed as Prime Minister in 2010, after she took over the Prime Ministership by force from her opponent in this recent leadership challenge, Mr. Kevin Rudd, who served as Prime Minister from 2007 up until the middle of 2010. When this stoush happened, Julia came in, and she has been Prime Minister since. Now, there is an election coming up quite soon in Australia. When I say quite soon, I mean within the next 12 months. The Labour Party, the current government, aren't as popular as they were when they were elected, which is pretty much the universal rule of all governments. And the Coalition Party, led by Mr. Tony Abbott, are in contention for, being the government over here. So, you've got Labour and Liberal going up against each other, but this whole last week has been about the Labour leadership. Now, before we go and continue, I am rather agnostic when it comes to politics. I have no strong leanings towards, Labour or Liberal, or, I'm not one of those greenies that insists on wearing hemp, or, I'm not, one of them active Christian lobbyist or family lobbyist from the other minor parties, or, I'm not even, I'm not the sort of person that would vote for the Australian Sex Party just because it has a funny name, even though I do actually agree with some of their policies. I'm sort of politically agnostic, in all respects, really, because I think politics won't work as long as there's people. Anyway, so we have this situation where we have Julia Gillard and Kevin Rudd contending for the leadership. Julia won by a fair margin, by the way. There was 102 people who voted from within Labour. 71 of them chose to go with Julia. So that's about, and obviously 31 went for Kevin. So, very rough mathematics, 2/3 were in favour of Julia. The problem is for the Labour Party, as it is being perceived, is that this has weakened them. And Tony Abbott, who for foreigners you might not know, is most well known in this country for being 1, Catholic, 2, an idiot, and 3, constantly, or semi-constantly, wearing budgie smugglers or, swimming trunks quite a lot. The three things, the Catholic, the idiocy, and the swimming trunks, aren't connected. That's just his big three things. He's the current leader of the party, and essentially, a lot of people I speak to aren't happy with Julia Gillard being Prime Minister. They felt that the way she came in was sort of backstabbing Kevin Rudd. Equally, a lot of them weren't happy with Kevin Rudd when he did have the Prime Ministership, but they agree that both of them are a bit better than the greater of the two evils, Tony Abbott. However, a lot of the people I talk to are from a particular demographic, and that is early 20s, university educated, and almost alcoholics because they've been university educated and are in their early 20s. Now, basically, I just thought I'd give an opinion. Despite being politically agnostic, I do care about what happens to the country. It's just I don't particularly think that one way of thinking is how it should always be, because otherwise we'd still have the White Australia policy. So, personally, I would have liked to have seen Kevin Rudd come back in and lead the party. Not that I have anything strongly against Julia Gillard, it's just I quite like Kevin Rudd. The problem is, you see, I've actually met Kevin Rudd. I met him on a train. He was over here in Perth in 2008 doing some, so he was rallying support for the local elections that were about to happen, trying to keep Alan Carpenter in. Coincidentally, that didn't work, but oh well. Anyway, he was over, he was on the train, I got on the train, there was all this press and, security around him, and I got to actually, they were done doing the talking, I walked up, said, waved to the security guard type thing, and he went, yeah, that's fine. Went to Kevin and said, excuse me, Mr. Rudd, Kevin, I'd just like to say hello, if you don't mind. And he shook my hand, good firm handshake, as all world leaders should have. And he spoke with me for about 10 minutes. I was a second year university student at the time, so he was asking what I was studying and pretending to be interested. And then when he told me about his political conference and stuff, I pretended to be interested. But it was a nice conversation, and the man was definitely a very effective politician, and you could see why he was so popular when he was first elected in 2007. But the other reason is I think it's the reason I would have preferred him in, aside from that personal thing, which I was trying not to let sway my judgment, is just I think he's easier to build a more credible campaign around for the Labour Party, but equally I think less likely to receive attacks than Julia Gillard. Julia Gillard is an unelected Prime Minister. She wasn't chosen by the people, she was chosen by a few people. The ones that are more equal. Everyone is equal, but some are more equal than others, that sort of thing. That is something that the Liberal Party can use. Now, again, allow me to point out, I am politically agnostic, but when it comes to people who I would trust running a country, Tony Abbott isn't on that list. Now, I'm willing to admit I might be completely wrong, and if he does get in and 10 years from now he's named Best Prime Minister ever, then I'll happily retract and go, you know what, I was wrong, bit young and stupid. However, I don't foresee that happening at this current moment in time. I don't have any particular problem with other members of the Liberal Party, and indeed when voting for a party one shouldn't just consider the leaders, but it is the leadership that gets all the media buzz and is what's been talked about, even here. Coincidentally, I don't know who I'll be voting for. Generally I don't vote. I've had 2 elections so far and I haven't voted for either the Labour or the Liberals, but it's just because I sort of feel sorry for the little ones in a way. And also the previous 2 parties, party that did obtain my vote, parties, different one each time, the reason they obtained my vote is because I felt that they appealed more to me. It's democracy. It's fun. Yes. Anyway, so there you go. Basically summarising, update for those of you outside the country, and summarising for those of you within, my thoughts and feelings on the matter is, it's not going to do the Labour Party any good, but I don't think it's going to derail the campaign. They're very clear now, they've chosen Julia Gillard, they believe she will be an effective administrator and can now go out and win an election against the Liberals and Tony Abbott, and of course all the other wonderful parties which don't get mentioned. And we'll have to wait and see. Okay, that is the one time I'll talk about politics this year, as I generally don't like discussing it, and when I say one time I of course mean there'll be a couple of others probably around election time, but that's it, done. If I could just talk about it, once every 4 years, same as a leap year, that would be fantastic, because sometimes just a bit annoying. Okay, that is all for today. Thank you for listening. Ta-ra.